One of the things that we have learned, and I mentioned earlier today, is that policy is a huge part of all of this, and really making sure that our policymakers are thinking about diversity, inclusion, and technology, pushing us forward, also creating policies that, for example, the EEOC can then really, once there's legislation, the EEOC can then reinforce that legislation, right? And so policymakers are a huge part of all of this work. And I'm really pleased to welcome Nidhi Kalra. Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome. Can you talk a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. Let's see, who am I? I ask myself that a lot.
Question.
Who am I? I'm an immigrant. I was born in India. I was poor growing up. These are all things I am. I have a PhD in robotics, but then after that, I was a scientist at the Rand Corporation for 10 years. And now I am Senator Harris's senior tech policy advisor. So I actually work out of DC, but I live in San Francisco, which is a bit of a commute.
Awesome. And what does it mean to be a senior technology advisor?
It means, I am helping take, Senator Harris's values and transform them into policy, right? Especially as they apply to the tech space. That can mean writing legislation. And it can mean helping her, figure out what speeches she might give, how she might use her stature to shed light on challenges and opportunities in the tech space.
And you haven't always done this.
No.
How did you get to where you are now?
So the Rand Corporation, for those who don't know, it's a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank. And I was a researcher on, evidence-based policy. How do we make policy grounded in fact? And after a while, two things happened. One, 2016 happened, and I was like, okay, this doesn't feel good. And I thought, I don't know if I can be nonpartisan right now. And the second thing that happened is I was like, our policies seem increasingly based on opinion, how people feel about a policy, rather than on what's happening. And I could continue to work on the supply side of research, policy research, but I thought, what would it look like to put my thumb on the other side of the scale and be the one demanding it? And with Senator Harris, I think she very much feels that policy should be grounded in evidence and support of what actually works, driven by our values. Values tell us where we want to go, but the evidence tells us how we get there. And so I found a lot of alignment with her, and she had this position open. So I'm very humbled to be a part of her team.
Awesome. So can you talk a little bit about why diversity and inclusion in technology is important to Senator Harris and you?
Yeah,
and the region, I think, as well.
There's so many ways in which it's important. One is, of course, tech is an engine of opportunity in California and around the world. There are a lot of people for whom that opportunity is out of reach for so many reasons. And so that's number one. It's an economic and social tool for mobility that should be available to more people. But it also touches everyone's lives. Whether you are in the inner city and your school now has certain technology in it, or you're in a rural community, being helped by telemedicine. And it can be hard to understand the impact of a technology on a community if you don't closely pay attention. And so I think it's important for the people creating technology to be representative, to represent the communities that are affected by that technology. And so there needs to be a feedback loop, a perspective, an appreciation for the nuances of technology that I don't think can come if we have a monolithic, tech community.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the consequences of not having a diverse and inclusive tech ecosystem?
It's considerable. We recently reached out to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, a Federal Trade Commission, talking about bias and facial recognition. If the light was shed on this problem by people of color, by women who said, "Hold it, my laptop doesn't see my face. It sees my face when I wear a mask, but it doesn't see my face." And that ought to have happened before the technology was rolled out. Why didn't it happen? Is it because there wasn't, there weren't enough people testing, they didn't have the diversity of people paying attention before the technology got out? One might say, okay, what's the big deal? We'll fix it. But in the case of facial recognition, for example, law enforcement decisions are being made, arrest decisions are being made. We don't even know all the ways in which facial recognition is being used, but to be misidentified can have serious social and economic consequences. It's no small thing. So this is just one example of a lack of diversity in tech that has real world consequences, and often for the most vulnerable people. If I'm misidentified, I can get a lawyer, I understand the technology, I have the resources, I can go to court, let's say. Someone else might not be in that position, and their life could get upended by technology that doesn't see them fairly for who they are.
Awesome. How can so a lot of us are either entrepreneurs in education or in working in tech companies. How can we all get more involved in policy?
Yeah, I have 3 answers to that. The first one is vote.
Vote, yes.
The second one is vote, and the third one is vote. That is the number one thing you can do. Your voice matters. And the number one way is by voting. And people say, oh, well, I live in California, my vote doesn't matter. It matters, because often we only vote, especially young people, right? Especially some minority groups, only vote in the national elections. But the next generation of national candidates come from our hometowns. They are people who have risen up, just like Senator Harris. So the people we vote for now are the people we are putting in line to be our presidents and our senators, maybe 10 years from now. So vote. That's not all you can do, but if you don't vote, you should. Start. If you've never voted before, this is a good time.
Yes.
Absolutely. The other way to get involved in policy is to shed light on your story. Make your voices heard. People will sometimes say, oh, check your baggage, right? Leave that behind. That doesn't belong in the workplace. It does belong in the workplace. It matters. Your story, the struggles, the successes. Don't check that baggage. Bring it and shine a light on it. Say, look at the really interesting things that I know that other people around me may not know. And use that to affect policy in your companies. Demand change. And then write to the people who represent you. Make your voices heard to them too, because we are listening. We pay attention to every constituent letter that comes, every phone call. We talk about it weekly. What are people concerned about? So if you're concerned about inclusion in tech, as I am, say so. Your voice matters.
Recently, the International Panel on Climate Change. Am I saying that right?
IPCC, yeah.
IPCC, yeah. I know climate change is really important to you in particular, and also to Senator Harris. And they recently, I don't know if you all saw it. Did you all see kind of what's happening there? A couple nodding heads. Okay. Maybe I can have you talk about it.
Yeah, so the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they've been putting out reports on essentially the state of the climate today and where it's going to be and what are we going to do about it. And there's, of course, talking about, the emissions, greenhouse gas emissions in our environment, which have been accelerating at an alarming rate since the pre-industrial age. And, I think probably in this room we all agree that's serious, that needs to change. And the question is, how do we change it?
Yeah, and actually let me just make it real clear. It was dire.
Yeah.
It basically said if we don't change the way we do business in the next 12 years, things are going to be radically different. And we've already seen a couple of really large hurricanes decimate cities and towns this year. So I just want to really stress that it's not a little thing. It's not all we've seen a lot of red flags. This one was like a big giant red flag.
And it's exhausting. If you're paying close attention, it's exhausting because administration after administration comes and goes, and we don't see the changes that we need structurally in this economy, and it can be easy to lose hope. And here's what the information I hope will motivate us. Again, vote. That you got to vote. because if this matters to you, you got to let people know. You got to put people in office for whom this matters. The number two thing is for the tech community to make this an issue, and it matters. Yeah, the data centers that are running, what kind of energy are they using? Are they carbon neutral? It also matters because if we care about inclusion, a lot of research shows that the people who will be hardest hit are those who are already left out of society.
Right, right.
We're
already seeing that.
Yeah, the effects are not going to be felt uniformly. They're going to be felt acutely by people who are struggling economically, socially, around the world too, because they don't have the buffer. So you lose your house, what are you going to do if you never had flood insurance, if you can't get it, if you have health concerns? I mean, it's difficult, but the time is now to demand change all the way up to the administration, but it starts by voting now. I know I'm going to sound like a total broken record, but it really matters. And then to start demanding change from the companies we work for. I would challenge you to, if this issue matters to you, and it should because it's in our lifetimes. I mean, we're talking 10 years. I mean, we're going to be mid-career at best, where these changes in our climate are going to be catastrophic. It's not too late, but it will be too late. So let's demand the changes. If you're the head of a company, how do you become carbon neutral? How do you make better choices? How do you demand changes from others? How do you inspire? How do you lead? There's no time to wait.
Did you all get vote?
Did you catch? I know I was all about that.
But also, I think it's really important. I'm going to reiterate that if it's important to you, if the future is important to you and your children and your children's children, advocate and really create change in your company around this. This is really important. Okay.
Before we get off that point, I'm noticing a lot of folks here are quite young. A lot of you may not have children. And I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And before they were born, I really struggled with, do I want to bring children into this world where they may face dire climate consequences and their very existence adds to greenhouse gas emissions?
Yeah.
And it was a really tough call. I felt like, okay, I can't throw myself under the bus on this one because I want a family, but it means I have to double down on my efforts to solve this problem.
Yeah. And I also want to say that as the biggest, the fastest growing industry in the world, we are negatively impacting that world in a lot of ways by the lack of diversity and inclusion in our workplaces. And that has, even in San Francisco, that has pretty significant impact in terms of the diversity in the city and people who are priced out now in Oakland and in surrounding areas as well. This is a problem that our industry needs to work on, is not only the diversity and inclusion and the kind of culpability and responsibility to the world to build products in a way that is going to be good for the world, that is built by and for a diverse world. And that includes really thinking about how we're impacting the most marginalized populations in many ways, including climate change. So,
if I can, and yet I will say that in many ways tech is and has been a leader. The idea, I'll speak personally, the idea of getting 3 months of maternity and paternity leave really is tech has made this a norm among a certain demographic. And the challenge, and then that's a huge part of being inclusive, is to allow people to, live the lives they need to that reflect, who they are. And in my case, part of that was being a mother. And for other people, it means different things. But I will say again, in this specific case, for example, of maternity and paternity leave, often there's only a specific cohort of a tech company's employees who are eligible. Is it available to the person who is making your lunch? Is it available to the person who is working at night, at midnight perhaps, cleaning the offices? Is that man or woman any less in need of those same kinds of benefits? And often they don't get it.
Or non-binary person, just so we're man, woman, or non-binary person.
Thank you for correcting me. You're right. Is that person in any less need than the software engineer or the director of childcare, of maternity or paternity leave, or any other benefits we offer our leaders and our so-called best and brightest. And so I would challenge you also. And one of the reasons we don't see that is because often those parts of our tech companies are contracted out. And so the question becomes, what does inclusion mean in that way too? Are we including everyone who contributes to our mission in the benefits that we offer? And I don't mean just, transit benefits. I mean the social and economic benefits that your company offers.
Yeah, I got into a Lyft a couple of days ago and talked to the driver, and she said, I'm not going to name the company, but one of the big companies I work for, well, they have a really good policy around diversity and inclusion, but I actually work for the contractor, and they are awful, and it's a terrible, toxic place for me. So she told me she took a leave of absence to drive a Lyft to try to figure out what she was going to do, and she was heading toward quitting tech. So that is absolutely true, that we also have a responsibility for the people who are contracting under us as well. I agree. So let's go back to politics a little bit for a second, because we talked a little bit about yesterday about trauma and the trauma that a lot of us are going through. And not only is it difficult to work on diversity and inclusion, and a lot of us are practitioners in the room, it's also sometimes we're all going through some of the toxic stuff that we're working against, that we're working to change. So there's that layer as well. We might be dealing with things at home, and then there is a movement around Me Too. There's also police shootings and a lot of difficult things that are particularly underrepresented communities are going through in tech. And on top of that, we have a very harsh, racist, sexist political environment. And I want to talk a little bit about how are you and how is Senator Harris really grappling with, it feels like it's a really tough thing to push through. How do you do that?
You know, it's really, really hard. There are some days when you just kind of want to lay on the floor and cry, right? And that you got to do that. And then you got to pick yourself up off the floor, dust yourself off. And, I will paraphrase something Senator Harris told her staff recently. She said after the Kavanaugh confirmations, where we all felt really just sort of bloodied up, right? It was not pretty. She said, we need to put this in the arc of the history of the civil rights movement. If we put this in context, losing a fight doesn't mean the fight wasn't worth having. All of these fights are worth having. Some we may lose, some we may win. That's not the only point. And so we need to get back up, find the next fight that is worth fighting, and go there. Take ourselves there with all of our experiences, all of our passion, all of our knowledge. We get right back up because we have to. We can't give up on ourselves. We can't give up on our children, and we can't give up on the people who came before us and fought so hard for the opportunities that we do have. So as hard as it is, as demoralizing as every loss feels, you get right back up, dust yourself off, gird your loins, and get right back into battle, because this doesn't end. Even imagine we won on Kavanaugh. This party's not over. This fight's not over. It's a skirmish in a much longer battle for fairness and equal opportunity, respect for each other. This does not begin or end here. And when we remember that perspective, I think we're better able to face tomorrow.
Awesome. I don't know how to go on that was the perfect ending.
Well, may I say something
Yes,
else?
absolutely.
This gathering matters to me personally. As I say, I had a PhD in robotics, and I loved the institution I was at. I still love it. But I remember having this weird feeling that I don't belong. Something doesn't fit quite right. I'm not seen. I have to pretend to be someone else in order to fit. That doesn't feel right either. And I also was, of course, very interested in policy, but I wonder what my career trajectory might have been had I felt a way in which I naturally belonged. And, I love where I am right now. I don't regret a second of it, but I do have that question mark hanging. And I am absolutely personally delighted to see this group to get together and be explicit about it and acknowledge this weird discomfort that I had, that I didn't know where to take it. And I wish that, 15 years ago, I could have brought it here. And so I just want to thank you all for bringing yourselves here, for taking this seriously and making the changes that we so desperately need, and for all of your leadership. So thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Nidhi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.